On your feet,
Put your hands
let's
together.
Go, let's go, let's go.
Welcome to the stage, Mr. Inky Johnson.
Give it together. Let's go, let's go, let's go, let's go. Hey.
What's up, Ray?
Thank you, bro. Thanks. Let him hear it. Let's go. Big partnership.
My Atlanta brother. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. This is sweet, man. This is awesome. This is awesome, man. You guys look great. You can take your seats. There we go. There we go. There we go. You guys look good, man. Yeah, y'all even smell good, right? Used to be in locker rooms. Locker rooms don't always smell like this, right? But first and foremost, I want to say it's an extreme honor and privilege to be here before you guys. You know, every opportunity I get to speak, this is something that I can never take for granted simply because I never saw myself doing it. And so I understand that it's being guided by a source and by a force that's a lot greater than me. I was telling Tyler, he asked me, he said, man, how did this happen? And I told him, like, the first day I got to college, when I started taking classes, they put me in public speaking, and I dropped the class on the second day. I was terrified. And I remember walking out, and the professor saying to me, like, man, where are you going? I said, man, I'll never be needing that. And so to be doing it for 16 years, it's a heavy level of confirmation and reverence that comes along with that. And so if you guys don't mind, I'm a big believer in gratitude. Right? Absolutely. And so I'm gonna come off the stage for a second, and I wanna do something. I'm gonna go to each section. Can somebody on the front row share with me something that you're grateful for? Yes, sir.
I'm grateful for this opportunity of being here, even though it's scary to be around all these great people around that can possibly change my life.
He said he's grateful for the opportunity of being here, even though it was scary being around the people that can possibly change his life. Why would you say it was scary? Change. Not something familiar where you come from. Can we give him a hand, please? Is somebody on the front row share with me something that you're grateful for? I'm gonna go with you, then I'm gonna come back to him. Yes, sir.
Swimming right here.
Swimming right here. Yes. Why?
I was in a dark place, and
yes, sir.
Kind of was the light guiding me out, so.
Oh, we gotta give it up for the ladies. Let's go. He said she guided him out a dark place. That's awesome, man. I've been at it with my wife since 5th grade. That's my girl. Puppy love, the whole deal. Right? She got the mic for us. My guy right here, thank you.
I'm really thankful for my wife and children. They really kind of saved my life. I had a bad childhood growing up, and I was lost, and my wife now wife kind of saved me, and then I've always wanted kids. Now that I have kids, man, they are the only reason why I'm striving to be better and pursue greatness, which I'm gonna attain.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yes, sir. Let's give him a hand for that, please. Yeah. Let's go. Let me go right here, please. They was waving me down in the back, so I had to come back.
I'm grateful to be alive, for my health. I'm grateful to change every day of my life to be better and to change other lives through me.
Absolutely. Let's give it up for her. Go with one more. We're going to go with my guy right here. We're going to go with my guy. We're going to stop it right there. Let's go.
Man, I'm thankful for you.
My guy.
Man, I'm thankful for your story because I remember when I heard you talk about your mom working at Wendy's.
Yes, sir.
My mom worked at Wendy's.
Wow.
And I remember all the struggles I went through, and I'm grateful that you were transparent and shared your story because the way it inspired me to believe I could be different too.
Absolutely.
And all the people in this room yesterday that stood up whenever Emily Ford was here shared that they had struggles as well. It made me feel like I wasn't alone.
Absolutely.
And so I'm thankful for you guys in this room. And Inky, I'm thankful for you sharing your story, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. I want everyone to do something for me. On the pad, in your phone, whatever it is, I want you to put the word gratitude. And tonight, after the day comes to an end, after you wind down, I want you to do something for me. Right? When you get alone, when you think about things, when you reflect, I just want you to write until you just stop writing. Things that you're grateful for. Right? And do me a favor, every single day, find time to write down things that you're grateful for. No matter how great the day may go, no matter how bad the day may go, write down every single day things that you're grateful for. And so every single day, I'm a big believer in intentionality, right? I'm gonna tell you the reason I did that. I was in St. Louis during the pandemic, and I went into a room, and I was sharing with the group, and I said, can somebody share with me something that they're thankful and they're grateful for in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of COVID, in the midst of things being an inconvenience? Like, can somebody just share with me something that they're grateful for, right? Because most people are wired to look at adversity, opposition, or challenge, change. They look at it and they often say, okay, can you tell me what did you lose? How did it inconvenience you? Right? Like, how did it not work out? Like, what's some things that you had to sacrifice as a result of the opposition, the adversity, the challenge, or the inconvenience? Very few people look at opposition and say, can you tell me what you gained? Right? What do you appreciate about the opposition? I know it didn't feel good. I know you didn't like it, but can you tell me how are you made a better person as a result of it? And so I was in the room and a lady stood up and she raised her hand and she started crying and said, I'm thankful I get to speak to my mother every single day in Japan. If I was working the same schedule, I know I probably never would get to do that. Gentleman stands up, back of the room, traps up to his ears, looked like he was supposed to be casted in the movie 300. And he was bawling. And he says, I'm thankful and grateful I got to watch my first child being born. He said, I know for a fact if my schedule was the same and things were back to normal, I never would have got the opportunity to witness that moment. He said, what's something you're grateful for, Ink? I said, 3 p.m. He said, why 3 p.m.? I said, man, most days, brother, I get to be in the carpool line picking my kids up from school. He said, a carpool line? I said, yeah, the carpool line, bro. I'm a competitor. I be racing cats to be the first one in the carpool line. I said, carpool line, but not the carpool line. I said, it's more so about trained optimism, not fantasy land. But looking at opposition, looking at adversity, looking at uncertainty with the perspective of, okay, what's the good in it? What can I extract from it to add value to every environment I go into and every person's life that I come in contact with? And so every single day, I'm a big believer in intentionality, right? Being intentional with energy, being intentional with approach, being intentional with attitude, being intentional with perspective. And so I start every single day off in a similar fashion. Whether I'm home in Atlanta with my wife and our 2 children, or whether I'm traveling somewhere across the country. When I'm home, obviously, with my wife, our 2 children, 11-year-old son, 12-year-old daughter, 11 months apart, Irish twins, give us a run for our money every day of the week. And I brought a few so I can read them so you can get a sense of what I'm speaking of. The first one reads, this is the beginning of a new day. You have been given this day to use as you will. You can waste it or use it for good. What you do today is important because you are exchanging a day of your life for it. When tomorrow comes, this day will be gone forever. In its place is something that you have left behind. Let it be something good. The second one reads, challenges. Challenges come so we can grow and be prepared for things that we're not equipped to handle in the moment. When we face our challenges with faith, prepared to learn, willing to make changes, and if necessary to let go, we're demanding that our power be turned on. And the last one reads, everyone you meet is fighting a battle that you know nothing about. Be kind. Yeah. And so I'll never forget, man, I was traveling to College Station, Texas. Had a connecting flight in Dallas. Right here, College Station, we got some Aggies in here, right? I hear you, I got you. I'm gonna show you some love, I got you, right? had a connecting flight in Dallas. And so whenever I travel, I text, update my wife, let her know how things are going. And so when I get to Dallas, everything is going great. Text my wife, let her know. I get in line, I'm pulling up my boarding pass, and I'm inching toward the gate agent. And so as I'm inching up toward the gate agent, and I pull up my boarding pass, and I go to hand it to the gate agent, I look up, and I see the pilot. And the pilot is walking off the plane, walking with his briefcase, walking at a pretty brisk pace. And he got next to me, and I said to him in a joking manner, I said, "Hey, brother, where you going?" Like, the plane that way. He was like, "Yeah, we hit a bird." I was like a little bird? He's like, "Yeah, a bird." I was like, no disrespect to the bird, but the bird gone, right? Like, plain bird, that's no match. He was like, "Yeah, but it's a protocol we have to go through. It could be blood on the plane. Sometimes things dent the plane. We just got to go through a protocol." I said, "Great, man. Would you mind? I travel a lot. I want to sit beside you. I would love to understand the protocol." Guy was nice as all get out. We take a seat, introduce ourselves. And he says to me, "Hey, Inky, we'll be fine unless they bring the plane tow truck." He said, "If they bring the plane tow truck, we'll have to wait maybe 2.5, sometimes maybe even 3 hours." Right? Been traveling over 16 years, never heard of a plane tow truck in my life. And within 3 minutes, what do you think showed up? A freaking plane tow truck. 3 hours go by. We board a new plane. We're on the runway, pulling off slowly. Everybody's getting situated. Pilot comes over the intercom, and he says, "Guys, I hate to inform you, but we have to go back to the gate." And everybody on the plane was like, "Yeah, it's probably joking." And then he follows it up and says, "No, they forgot to load the luggage." And the people lose it. Like, that was the breaking point, right? And I believe I had the maddest guy on the plane sitting next to me. My man started smacking the seat, smacking the wall. He was so mad, he was starting to make me mad. I don't even like getting mad. All right, and so as we're pulling back up to the gate, I say to him, "Brother, I just want to see who forgot to load the luggage. Like, I just want to see, man." And as we're pulling back up to the gate, I'm looking out of the window, and I spot the luggage bin. Right, never forget it, 2 gentlemen on both sides of the luggage bin. Remembered it vividly. One guy had a Sprite, other guy had a Dr. Pepper, right? They were doing a floss dance like my 11-year-old son. And there was no luggage on the plane. I said, "Oh, they're living La Vida Loca. There's no luggage on the plane." My man, Ricky Martin, like in the flesh, he's living it up. And I say to the guy beside me, my challenge wasn't that it was no luggage on the plane. That wasn't my challenge. I said, my challenge wasn't even that we had been delayed. Like, that wasn't my challenge. My challenge wasn't even that we had encountered a level of opposition and adversity. That wasn't my challenge, right? I travel often. I expect opposition and adversity. I'm not one of these people that wake up every single day and live my life as if I'm in Mayberry and I'm not going to encounter any level of opposition and adversity. I just don't live my life that way. I said, my challenge is not even that we've encountered a level of uncertainty. That's not my challenge. I said, my challenge is this: if we're not careful, we can do things in such a way, and the monotony and the routine of what we're doing can get us to a space and place to where when opposition arises, when a challenge arises, we can approach it with the perspective of, oh man, I'll just be ready for it and I'll rise to the occasion. And I think we all know in life, we don't rise to the occasion, we revert back to our training. Meaning the individuals that we were prior to the opposition, prior to the challenge, prior to the adversity, that is the individual that's going to show up in the midst of it every single time. I often say to people, I was born to a mother at 16 in a 2-bedroom home with 14 people, right? 125 Warren, inner city Atlanta, right? But whether I grew up in a 2-bedroom home with 14 people or you grew up in a 14-bedroom home with 2 people, when we came into the world, the physician couldn't come over to us and say, you inherit character. They couldn't give it to us, right? And so character has to be cultivated through opposition, through adversity, through challenges, through successes, and through failures. I used to say to the guys I play football with often, I don't care how tall your daddy is, you got to do your own growing. Like every single day, you got to cultivate it and you got to build it in the midst of the challenges that we face. And so I feel extremely privileged that I encountered an injury and a situation September 9th, 2006, and I almost lost my life behind a game of football. I feel extremely privileged that it happened, right? Because for most people, when they encounter life-changing situations, oftentimes they can forecast the change, right? They can see the change coming. They can know in a minute I'm gonna have to pivot, in a minute I'm gonna have to go over and approach a new career, in a minute I'm gonna have to change things. Like very few people go through situations to where you wake up and you're doing something that you've done since you were a child, and one day you do something and the outcome is never the same ever again. I was playing a game of football from 7 until 20. And I got 8 games away from making my lifelong dream happen, and I go out to do something that I knew how to do 10, 20, 30 different ways, and for some strange reason on September 9th, 2006, I went to make a routine tackle, and 2 hours later, I found myself in the emergency room, and I'm fighting for my life. I wake up the next morning, 6 scars down my left thigh, 1 scar across the left side of my neck, 1 across the right, twice through my right ribs, cut out my right pec, bottom of my armpit to the bottom of my hand, 350 staples in my body, bandaged me from my neck to my knees. I remember waking up and my right trap was up to my ear. And just a week prior, I was bench pressing 320 pounds. I was running a 4.38 40-yard dash. I was doing what I love. And so the fragility of life and how quickly it can change has created a sense of urgency with my work, with my family, and with the way that I live my life. And so a situation happened with a player from the Buffalo Bills by the name of Damar Hamlin. About a month and a half ago, a situation happens, guy's on the field making a tackle, he makes it, he stands up, falls back, goes into cardiac arrest, they end up saving his life. That night, I get several phone calls and texts from people that I knew, people that I loved, that I cared about, and they said, hey, Inky, did you see the accident? Did you see what happened? I said, absolutely. They said, man, I'm sure it brought back a lot of emotions. I was like, absolutely. They said, tell me what you think about it. I said, you know, man, this morning when I was taking my kids to school, I said it was storming in Atlanta the day that accident happened. I said it was storming in Atlanta. I said, and I saw so many accidents as I was taking my children to school. I said, and I guarantee you, not one of those people thought that morning when they left their houses and going to their workplaces, taking their children to school, not one of those people thought this morning when I walk out of my door, I can possibly encounter a situation that can possibly alter my life. Right? Because as people, we live with a certain sense of arrogance. We think we wake up, I'm gonna go here, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. And I often say to people when they say things like, oh man, I'll get to it a month from now. I'm like, who promised you that? I'll get to it a year from now. I'm like, man, who promised you that? I'll do it a week from now. I'm like, man, who promised you that? Like, let me talk to him. Right? Because I understand you can go to sleep on top of the world and you can wake up and the world can be on top of you and you have no control over it. And if you don't have the right set of tools, it can be, I'm talking about annihilating. If you don't update your software, it can be annihilating. I say to people often, is your software updated? And they always respond talking about an iPhone. I'm like, bro, Apple is so cold-blooded, they'll send you the alert to let you know when it's time to update. I said, but one of the most powerful questions that I got asked as a teenager was always be willing to reevaluate what you think you know to be true. In other words, does the knowledge base, does the information, the individual that you are, is it applicable to your goals, dreams, and aspirations and the person that you're striving to become? Right? Is the software updated? Because I think we all know, no matter the business, no matter what we do, what's the X factor in life? People. The quote says it. People may forget what we do, people may forget what we say, but people will never forget the way we make them feel. Right? Absolutely. No question. Like we live in a world that's so transactional. Right? To where people treat people like they're a transaction. And they waste so many experiences. Right? One of the most powerful things we can do is value people. Like I gotta tell you, a situation happened with me and my son a few months ago. We were coming home on a Saturday morning from a workout. We were getting off on our exit. In Atlanta, it's storming. We're coming up on a red light. And as we're coming up on a red light, a big 18-wheeler truck pulls up on the side of us. It pushes a lot of water our way. I'm driving a truck and I drive with one hand. And so when it pushes the water our way, my truck does a slight shift. And when it does the slight shift, I think it's just a slight shift. But the truck keeps spinning. And I'm like, oh man, we're in a full-blown hydroplane. And I'm like, God, no. And we're spinning. And we're spinning toward a retainer wall. And my truck is taller than the retainer wall. And we're on a ramp. So I'm like, man, if we hit this retainer wall, then my son is gonna flip over into traffic. And so as we're spinning and we're spinning and we're spinning, something hits my spirit and says, Ink, let go of the wheel. I was like, God, I can't do it. I drive with one hand. It's the only control I got. And that's how we do in life, right? When life is asking more of us, when life is telling, let go of the wheel, let go of old situations, let go of old people, we're like, nah, this is the only control I got. Right? We contract, we squeeze. Right? When life is trying to take us to the next level, the quote says it, every next level of our lives demands a new version of us. When life is saying, let go of the wheel, like, nah, this is the only control I got. And we keep spinning. And I look at my son, and my son says to me, Dad, I feel like we're about to die. And it hits my spirit again. Let go of the wheel, Ink. Let it go. Spin, spin, spin. We hit the retainer wall. We flip in the opposite direction. We flip, flip. We land upright. We land, I jump out of the truck, I run around to the other side, I grab my son, I check on him, I grab my phone, I call my wife. I said, hey babe, me and Ink just had an accident, we're here. It's like, I'm on my way. Hang up the phone, I look at my son, say, Ink, we gotta get out of the rain, buddy. Let's find us a spot. And so we're looking across the little breezeway, and we're looking, and cars are coming by, and it's pouring. And so a white car pulls up. Now, I'll never forget it. This guy pulls up, and he rolls his window down. And he screams out, hey, Ink, you good? And to my recollection, I've never seen this guy before in my life. And I'm not one of these people, everywhere I go, somebody just know who I am. I was like, yeah, we good. He's like, I'm gonna pull over. I'll help you and your son get out of the rain. I was like, man, that's nice of you. He pulls over, walk up to the car. He's like, yeah, man, come on, get in the back seat. I was like, my wife's on the way, man, so we'll just wait for a little bit. She'll be here in a second. We live close by. He's like, no problem. I put my son in the car. I go to get in. My son says, Dad, your arm is bleeding. I was like, hey, brother, man, I'm going to just wait. I don't want to drip blood on your seat. I'm going to just wait. My wife is on the way. He was like, all right, cool, give me a second. I'm going to come out with you. And so I'm just walking and I'm pacing. And I'm like, man, we really just flipped over. Like, I couldn't believe it. And the gentleman walks up behind me, and he taps my shoulder. And when I turn around, he says to me, you don't remember me, huh? I was like, nah, brother, I can't say that I do. And in my head, I'm like, bro, we just flipped over. We just had a traumatic experience, brother. I ain't trying to remember you right now, brother. We just flipped, man. I'm in the midst of it, man. He was like, give me a second, I'm gonna run and get my phone. He runs to the car, gets his phone, I'm walking. He comes back, taps me on my shoulder again. And I turn around, and this time he had his phone. And he puts it right slap dab in my face. Bam. And it's a picture of me and this dude. Talking about cheesing ear to ear, like we brothers, smiling. And he was like, last year, man, was the toughest year of my life. And he said, I saw you in the airport. He said, and I was about to walk past you, and I was like, nah, I ain't gonna stop. And he said, I stopped. He said, I came over, you were nice, you were gracious to me, you took this picture with me. And he said, when I walked off, the only thing I said was, life, just let me see him again. He said, I just want to do for him what he did for me in that moment. Just let me see him again. He said, so today when I was getting off the exit, I didn't know that was you. He said, this is my exit too. He said, I didn't know that was you until I saw you run around the car, and I was like, man, that's Ink. And I was saying, man, we just flipped over. He said, I just wanted to give to you what you gave to me in my moment of opposition. Right? In life, I'm a firm believer we get what we give. Right? The law of reciprocity. Absolutely. The law of reciprocity. Right? What we give to this thing called life, life gives back. But oftentimes, whether it be in business or whether it be in life, we treat things like it's transaction and we waste the experience if the experience doesn't give us what we want from it. Right? We waste the experience if it doesn't give us what we want from it. Some of the greatest lessons in life comes from moments of rejection, comes from moments of opposition, comes from moments of things not going the way that we want it to go. Right? One of the most valuable things that's ever happened in my life was when I met that gentleman in the street that Tyler stood on the stage and spoke about. Me and my cousins were in a 2-bedroom home, 14 people playing football in the street. I just wanted us to have our own beds. The NFL was a part of it, but I wanted us to have our own beds. I wanted to pull my mother off the double shift at Wendy's. I wanted to give my grandmother a better living condition. And I remember saying this to them, and their responses were almost automatic. Remember them saying to me, yeah, Ink, that sounds cool, but nobody in our family has graduated high school, man. Like, yeah, but I think I can do it. Like I often speak to people about, it's always a person or people that have capacity for the journey. They got capacity for the dream. They got capacity for the goals, the aspirations. It's a lot of people with the skill and the talent, but they don't have the capacity, right? It's people that's smart as all get out. When opposition and adversity hit, they can't fight themselves out of a paper bag. Mike Tyson, one of the greatest quotes of all time, everybody got a plan until they get punched in the mouth. It's one of the greatest quotes of all time, right? Because everybody does have a plan until life punches them in the mouth. And you got some people that take it, taste the blood, and be like, all right, bro, cool, let's go. And there's other people that tuck their tail, go back in the house and say, I didn't know I had to go through that in order to make it happen. And so I often say to people in life, it's not that people don't have what it takes, it's that sometimes they don't realize it's gonna take everything you got. Blood, sweat, tears, cuts, scars. People don't burn out and quit because of what they do. People burn out and quit because life makes them forget why they do it. And so when you say to people, be grateful for what it is that you've been commissioned to do, it sounds as if it's cliche, but it's so true when it says it's never about what happens to us, it's about how we respond to it. That gentleman that I met in the street, he changed my life. He changed my thought process. Me and my cousins playing tackle football in the street, every day going in the house, cuts, scars, bruises, and this gentleman pulls up and says, do y'all want to play football on grass? I'm like, bro, I would love that. This street getting rough. I would love it. Go in the house, get your people, let me talk to them. My mother was at work. I went in the house and got my uncle. Like, Uncle, you'll come talk to this guy? Uncle was like, sure. Uncle comes outside, guy extends his hand. Hey man, my name is Trey. He said, I'm gonna be honest, I just dropped the kid home, I'm leaving the neighborhood. I see these knuckleheads playing ball in the street. I run a program across town, think if you bring them out, sign them up, great opportunity for them, it could really help them. My uncle responded, sir, we greatly appreciate it. He said, but I hate to inform you, we just don't have the money to spare on anything like that at this moment. Inky's mother, single mother, she don't have it to spare. Other 3 fathers are in and out of the system, they don't have it to spare. Without any hesitation, the guy says, I tell you what, you bring them to the park tomorrow, I'll sign them up, I'll pay for it with my own money. I tapped my cousin's leg. I said, bro, you ain't even seen my spin move yet, bro. You ain't seen my best stuff yet. What type of guy is this? And the next day we get to the park, and I find out he wasn't just paying for me and my 3 younger cousins, he's paying for kids all across Atlanta. Guy was wildly successful, had his own business. Guy didn't have to be a little league coach. Guy was doing it as a give back. And I watched him. Watch how he treated people. Watch how he spoke to people. Watch how he dealt with people. And one night, they wouldn't let my mother off her shift, and she called him. And she said, Coach, can you please take Inky home? They won't let me off of my shift. Like, sure. He used to drive this blue pickup truck, and he had the camper on the back, and so all the kids used to want to ride with him because they had the camper on the back. And so when he came to me, it's like, Ink, I got to take you home tonight. They won't let your mother off work. I was like, bet, I get to ride in the camper tonight. Bet. Let's do it. And we pull up to my house, I get out. He says, all right, Ink, I'll see you tomorrow at practice. I said, Coach, can I ask you a question? He said, sure, what you got, son? I said, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but I really want to understand this. He opened his door, got out of his truck, walked around, stood directly in front of me. He said, Ink, what you got? He said, first and foremost, you can't disrespect me, son. I love you. First man to ever tell me he loved me. He said, what you got, son? I said, why do you live life the way that you live it? Why do you treat people the way that you treat them? Why do you do things the way that you do them? He said, I'm gonna share something with you, son, and I don't want you to ever forget it. And in its simplicity, it was yet profound. And all he said to me was, as long as you can live your life and make sure that somebody else's life is okay, he said, son, your life will always be okay. And he got in his truck and he left. And it shifted my perspective about everything I was afforded to do and everything I was connected to. I stopped viewing sports as just a game a long time ago. I started viewing it the same way I view this stage. It was a platform that I got provided to cultivate a certain level of excellence and greatness, so one day when I was done with the sport, it would be certain things I could extract from it to apply to other areas and aspects of my life to make me somewhat of a decent human being, right? In other words, when my injury happened, I viewed it as my arm and my hand got paralyzed. My heart didn't. My arm and my hand got paralyzed. My perspective didn't. My arm and my hand got paralyzed. My dedication didn't. My arm and my hand got paralyzed. My commitment level didn't. Like, not the shallow stuff, not the stuff that's predicated upon external factors, but the concrete commitment. The commitment that says, can you stay true to what you said you would do long after the mood that you set it in has left? I used to ask guys one question: can we be committed to the process of what we're doing without being emotionally attached to the results of what we're doing? In other words, if the outcome changes, does it change you? Right? If you don't get what you want from a situation, does it change the thing that you said you wanted to do? Right? If it doesn't turn out in the favor of what you thought it was going to turn out, will it change your ambition, your drive, and your dedication and commitment level to what you said you loved and what you said you wanted to do? Right? Opposition just makes it sweeter. Adversity causes some people to break and other people to break records. The same boiling water that hardens the egg softens the potato. It's not about the circumstance, it's about what we're made out of. That same guy bought me my first steak. That same guy took me across town when I was living in a 2-bedroom home with 14 people, and he would show me different homes to let me know that people weren't living the way that we were living. He rewired my thinking. That same guy, me and my family, got robbed on Christmas Eve when we got our first pair of Nikes, and me and my cousins were running back and forth in the room, and we were looking at the Nikes because we used to race in the street. And so as we would run back and forth in the room, I would always say to him, like, man, in the morning, like, I'm gonna smoke you when we race. We used to race light pole to light pole. And the third time we came into the room, it was a guy coming through our window, and he had a gun in his hand. And he was taking everything that we had on the floor by the window. My mother got up, and she didn't call a pastor. She didn't call a deacon at a church. She called my little league coach. And that next morning, he showed up. And when he showed up, I was sitting on the curb. And there was people out riding their bikes, playing with their basketball. He gets out of his truck, and he had a brown paper bag like you get from the corner store. And he said, Ink, don't y'all be out here trying to take nobody's stuff. I was like, man, we're not taking nobody's stuff, coach, we chilling. He's like, I'm sorry, man, I got the call late. This was the only thing that was open. This was all I could do in the moment. And in the brown paper bag, it was full of drawers and socks. And he still buys me drawers and socks every Christmas until this day. And I don't even need them, right? My guy, yeah. Those are the moments we remember. Those are the moments that make us who we are. I always say to people, man, get some real people in your corner, right? Like some real people. Like when you got the goal, the dream, and the aspiration, and you start questioning your ability and if you can do it, and you got somebody in the corner saying, bro, you're skilled enough, you're talented enough, you're worthy enough, go get it, go change your family's lineage, right? We need people like that in our lives, right? Real people that tell us what we can do and what we can accomplish, and we use that as fuel. Real people. Because I gotta be honest, if we think we're gonna put the dream, the goal, the aspiration, if we think we're gonna put it out in the atmosphere and adversity is not coming, we got another thing coming. Right? If you think you just aim to change your family's life and adversity and opposition is not coming, we got another thing coming. Right? If we think we're just gonna go out and crush it because we're talented and we're skillful enough, we got another thing coming. I got to high school and said, man, I wanna go D1. And we had metal detectors at my high school. And I tell people we were TSA before TSA at the airport. We were getting searched before Delta. And I walked through the metal detector and the cop was searching me and he said, what's your plan, little man? I said, I'm going D1. I'm going to college. And I was at the lowest performing public school in the state. And when I said I'm going D1, the cop responded, you'll probably go to cell block D1. That's life. Life gonna always hit back. Man, I'm gonna change my family's life. Who you think you are gonna change your family's life? Why do you think you worthy enough to do it? Man, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna do this in real estate, I'm gonna crush it. Life gonna always hit back. Like, what makes you think you're gonna do it? What makes you think you're equipped enough to do it? Right? We all hear the voice. It's like the quote that says, we all got problems. What makes us different is how we solve them. Life always gonna hit back. And when he said to me, you'll probably go to cell block D1, I thought to myself, man, it has to be a mistake. I've never seen this guy before in my life. And he goes to walk off and I walk with him and I tap him on his shoulder and I was like, excuse me, sir, but I've never saw you before in my life. Has to be a mistake. Life hidden back. No, I know about you. He said, I know about you. I said, really? He said, yeah, you had two uncles coming to the same school. I said, absolutely. He said, they could play ball just like you, right? I said, yes, sir. He said, aren't they serving 20 and 40 years at the federal penitentiary, not even too far away from here? I said, yes, sir. He said, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I said, we'll see. He said, we will. I said, we will. And the first person I went to see when I got my scholarship papers to the University of Tennessee, I went to see that cop. Yeah. All right? And I slid the paperwork across the table to him. And he stood up. And he said, I want to ask you something. He said, you probably thought when I said that to you, I was trying to crush you. I said, yeah, it came across that way. He said, don't get it twisted. He said, I've been at the school working before you got here, and I'm gonna be here working after you leave. He said, but I heard so many people talk about what they were gonna do and say what they were gonna do. They ended up at the gas station across the street, getting sent off to jail and prison, and it never happened. He said, so when I said it to you, I just wanted to see, would you retreat and say, you know what, man, you're probably right? Or would you walk with me, tap me on my shoulder and say, nah, I think you got the wrong guy? He said, so how did you do it? I said, man, you thought I was trying to just go to college? I said, man, I wanted to break a generational curse in my family. Nobody in my family had been to college. I wanted to change the perception of the school. I wanted the whole perception to change. I wanted the next time a mother was in a car with her son at the stoplight across the street from my school, I wanted the mother to tap the son on the shoulder and say, hey, son, you know the kid, Inky Johnson, that's out in the world doing some good? He's a product of that place. That's where he comes from. I wanted everybody at that school to say, you know that cat Inky that's out in the world doing some good? He comes from this place. And you know what people tried to do to me the whole time I was at the school? They wanted to give me an easier route. Inky, go to this school. They'll give you this. They'll promise you a scholarship. Just go for 3 years. And I was like, nah, I think I can make it from here. And they would always say to me, nobody has made it from there. Why would you do that? I was like, yeah, but I think I can do it. I think I can do it. Nobody else didn't have the vision. Nobody else didn't have the drive. They didn't have to. I thought I can do it. If I would have went across town and they would have gave it to me, it wouldn't have meant the same. It wouldn't have fortified my belief. It wouldn't have changed my mindset. It wouldn't have did the work that it did to my perspective. I'm a firm believer that perspective drives performance. How we view what we do will always affect and impact how we do what we do. And so when I got to the University of Tennessee, Tennessee was Mayberry for me. Guys was getting steak, shrimp, spaghetti. Guys was getting nap pods. Like, I came from sleeping on the floor. They had nap pods. Like, it is what it sounds like. Like, guy walking down the hall and they're like, you tired? You want to take a nap? There's a nap pod. Unbelievable. Like, and the first thing they say to me, have you ever been to a sorority party? I was like, no, bro, I've never been. It was like, we're going tonight. I was like, all right, cool. I said, would you mind taking me back to the Marriott? I was like, yeah, man, we'll take you back to your room, let you get changed. And we pull up, and I get out of the car, and I say to him, man, I'll catch you guys tomorrow. I said, man, you're sick. Like, we got to go to the sorority party, bro. Like, we're going to have a great time. I was like, no, I'm not sick, man. I'm cool. I was like, what's wrong, man? Like, come on, go get dressed. Let's go to the party. I was like, bro, this is my first time being in a room with my own bed, and it's a king-size bed. Like, bump that party, bro. I got my own bed. I was like, you ain't got a bed at home? I was like, nah. And the next morning, I have 2 meetings. And my first meeting, they say to me, Inky, what do you want to accomplish academically? I said, I want to graduate in 3 years. They said, okay, great. What do you want to accomplish through the game of football? I said, I want to go to the NFL after my 3rd year. They said, okay, great. We'll see what happens. And I come into my 3rd year, sitting in the team room, watching film, 2 big projector screens similar to this, and my coach comes in. Gentleman by the name of Larry Slade, amazing man, amazing leader. Had 2 sheets of paper in his hand. Comes in, Inky, I got some great news for you. Hands me the first sheet, said, man, can you believe you're on track to graduate in 3 years? I said, awesome. Hands me the second sheet of paper. Said, son, you're a projected top 30 draft pick as a cornerback. I dropped the clicker. I sprint out of the room. I call my mother and grandmother on the 3-way. They pick up. I said, listen, after this season, we'll never struggle again. I said, we'll never miss another meal. Our lives are about to change. And little did I know our lives were about to change. Come out, first game, execute, get the victory. Everything goes great. Get nominated SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Second game, we're playing against Air Force. Tough group, disciplined group, great group of guys. Still the only team I've ever played against in my career that when guys talk trash, they didn't say a word back. So after a while, you just be quiet because it makes you feel like a fool after a while, right? So if any of you guys got a son or a daughter that plays sports and people are talking trash, tell them just don't say nothing back. Team will be quiet after a while, right? And so we come into the 4th quarter. 2 minutes left in the game. Game is basically over. And we break the huddle and we call quarters coverage. And as we break the huddle, I say to my best friend, Gerard Mayo, linebackers coach for the Patriots present day, I say, bro, I hope they throw the ball my way. I can make a tackle. We can get ready for Florida the next week. And so the play starts to unfold, and I'm backpedaling to my position, and I'm looking at the quarterback on Air Force's team. He's tapping it. He's looking in my direction. He releases it. Guy catches it. I break up from my quarter to go make a routine tackle. And as soon as I hit the guy, it seemed as if every breath in my body left. It seemed as if my soul left my body. Had been in a lot harder collisions. And my body went completely limp, fell to the ground, I blacked out. Never experienced anything like this before. When my eyes opened, my teammates were running over to me and they said, Ink, get up, let's rock, let's go. I said, I can't. They said, what do you mean you can't, man? You always get up, you're captain, let's go. I said, I know, man, but I can't move. They said, what do you mean you can't move? You always get up, man, let's go. I said, I know, bro, but it's a shock going from the crown of my head to the bottom of my feet. I can't feel anything. The shock eventually left, but it stayed in my right arm and hand. I remember them bringing a spine board out. They put me on the spine board. They're wheeling me off the field. We get to the ambulance. My father's standing there. I remember saying to my father, Pops, I got him, right? I put it on him, right? He said, yeah, son, but I think you got the worst part of this one. They rolled me up in the ambulance. They say, Ink, we'll get you over to the hospital, run a couple tests. It's ball. Things happen. You'll be fine. They get me over. They run their tests. They put me in a room. My mother comes in. My mother's old school, man. She's tough as nails, man. She comes in. She's cracking one little joke, kisses me on my forehead. She says, Ink, you'll be fine. It's ball. Things happen. You'll be all good. And she goes to exit the room, and I'll never forget, I watched my mother exit the room. And when she exited the room, she made a left. And when she made the left, I flipped my head back to the left. And when I flipped my head back to the left, I remember seeing the head doctor, and he was running in my direction, and he was screaming. And he was saying, guys, get in here. We got to rush this kid back to emergency surgery. He's about to die. And I had been there for a while at this point, and everything had been calm and cool. And I remember responding to him saying, like, die? Like, away from me or die? I was like, man, what happened? Everything was so calm and cool. He said, yeah, we went back and we ran the test. We noticed you ruptured your subclavian artery in your chest. You're bleeding internally. Said, we got to rush you back and take the main vein out of your left leg, plug it into your chest in order to save your life. He said, I guarantee you, you won't be alive in the morning. You'll bleed out. I said, let's go. And the next morning I woke up with the 6 incisions down my thigh, scar across the left side of my neck, scar across the right, twice through my right ribs, had cut out my right pec, bottom of my armpit to the bottom of my hand, 350 staples in my body, had bandaged me from my neck to my knees. He said, when we went in to repair the artery, we noticed you had torn the nerves in your brachial plexus. I said, what's that? He said, it's the nerve roots that go from your spine that control shoulder, arm, hand, fingers. He said, think about it this way, Inky. When you plug something into a wall, that's how the brachial plexus goes into the spine. But once you rupture them, it can't go back in. He said, so our goal here is to get you to ADL. I said, what's ADL? He said, assisted daily living. He said, if we can get you to a point to where you go to a grocery store and you put a grocery bag under your right arm, that'll be a plus for us. He said, we understand you were right-hand dominant. If we can get you to a point to where you can hold a pencil or a pen and you can write on a 3rd to a 5th grade level, that'll be a plus for us. He said, your coach wants to come in and speak to you. And Philip Foreman comes into the room and says, Inky, something traumatic has happened to you. He said, we're gonna unenroll you, send you back home to Atlanta, let you be around family and friends to process what happened. I said, Coach, I greatly appreciate it, man, but I'm not going back to Atlanta. He said, yeah, but you can't play. I said, this isn't about a game. He said, so what is it about? I said, me finishing what I started. He said, so what do you want? What can we do for you? I said, can you get me a Dunjoy sling and a Velcro strap? He said, but Inky, you can't play. I said, it's not about a game. He said, what is it about? I said, me finishing what I started. I said, I don't need you to send me back home. I'm not unenrolling. That wasn't in my life contract. I never said to my mother and grandmother, I'm gonna be the first one in our family to graduate college unless my right arm and hand gets paralyzed. I never said that. I said I was gonna graduate college. I never said to my teammates, man, I'm gonna be a great teammate unless I can no longer make it to the NFL. I said I was gonna be a great teammate. The goals, the dreams, the aspiration, and the results and the destination, it wasn't predicated upon external factors. And I often say to people, when you got something that you want to do and accomplish, man, let it have to take your life before it take your drive, man. I was supposed to be in the hospital 60 to 80 days. I got out on the 3rd day. Not because I was anything special, but people often ask me what I miss. Like, Inky, do you miss playing at Bama, LSU? I'm like, yeah, that was cool. But if you ask me what I miss what we got in this room. I miss my people. I miss showing up in that 5 a.m., that countdown clock, and we would be running 131 tens. When one of my guys would get ready to quit, I would say, hey, brother, rent my passion until you get strong enough to possess your own. And they would do the same for me. I miss being connected to purpose. I miss being connected to a common goal. I miss being connected to something that was a lot greater than me. That's what got me out of the hospital. Not anything materialistic, not anything superficial. The dream was deferred. I needed to be back with my people. I often say to people, man, check on your people, man. Right? Like these times that we're living in, check on your people. Right? Pick up the phone, like call them, check on them. Right? These are different times, opposition, adversity. The landscape of the world has changed. I say to people often, the current climate of the world is not permission to fail, and I ain't talking climate change. Because for the average person, if you give them a crush, they're gonna use it. And so the reason I say to people often, I wouldn't change what happened to me is because of the 2 years after my injury. Somebody comes up to me every single week and they say to me, Inky, be honest, you said you wouldn't change what happened to you. Why? And for them, their perspective goes to the space and place of, man, you got paralysis in your right arm and hand. You wouldn't change that? Like, come on, man, if you could be in the NFL right now making millions of dollars, you wouldn't change it? What about the atrophy? I'm like, bro, I'm well aware I got paralysis. I live with it every single day, bro. But the reason I wouldn't change what happened to me is the 2 years after my injury, it changed me. Like, I'll never forget speaking alongside Kobe prior to him passing, and he said something that was so phenomenal. He said, every single day I was pursuing perfection and excellence. Even though I knew I would probably never catch it, But just the fact that I was willing to pursue it, I would defeat and dominate most of my opponents, because most of my opponents and competitors would never pursue something that didn't have any guarantees attached to it. Most people need guarantees in order to be great. Most people need to be promised something in order to be great, right? It's very few people that can get up flat-footed and chase greatness in the midst of opposition, adversity, or challenges. And so the 2 years after my injury, I got flown from Knoxville, Tennessee to Rochester, Minnesota, to the Mayo Clinic, to the best physicians in the world. And all they were trying to get me at the time was filling. Back in my arm, back in my torso, back in my leg, I had no filling. And every single week they would have a different device that we would try. And the window was 2 years. If anything was supposed to come back with me, it would come back in the 2-year window. And every single week they would call and say, hey, Ink, we got this different device. Come up, man, we think this is the one. And every week I would come up, pretty optimistic guy, pretty positive guy. I would go into the office, I would try a machine, I would sit around, wait a day or so, come into the doctor's office. I would say, man, are you seeing anything? They would say, nah, come back tomorrow. And I did that for a year and a half. And Tyler, I saw 0 results. I'm talking about not an inch. I'm talking about no feeling, no movement, no nothing. And when we got to the year and a half mark, I remember people coming into the office and you can tell the weight was getting heavy. And they had this deal, it was an arm skateboard mixed with another contraption, and everybody was so elated. Everybody's like, man, this is the one. It's gonna get you some filling, Ink, this is it. They were sticking needles in my back, like these long needles full of dye. And I come into the office and I try the machine. Now I'll never forget, I get up and I'm sitting in the corner and I'm watching them test it out. Now I'll never forget, they testing the machine, then they walk off. And when they walk off, I run over to the PT that I knew, a guy named JD from Utah. And I grab JD's shoulder. And when I grabbed his shoulder, he slid from under my hand. And when he slid from under my hand, I went and I caught up to him. I grabbed the shoulder, I slowly turned him around, and he was crying. And he said, Inky, I'm sorry, man, we want it to work. He said, but we're not seeing anything. He said, man, your arm or your hand will probably never work another day for the rest of your life. I said, physically, JD? He said, what do you mean physically, Ink? I said, physically, that right hook is out of commission, JD. I'm done. I said, but I will use this arm and this hand every day of my life for the rest of my life by the way that I live my life, because I would never allow a situation or a circumstance to define my life. Can you do something for me? Can you do something for me? At the first sign of opposition, please don't stop. Can you do something for me? At the first sign of adversity, please don't stop. Right? At the first sign of something changing and not going the way you want it to go, please don't stop. Please don't throw in the towel. Please don't wave the white flag and say, I yield, I yield. Please don't stop. Right? You are amazing, man. You are incredible, man. You are gifted. You are skilled. You are talented. But the problem is not the gifts, the skills, or the talent. The problem is sometimes the perspective that we see things with. Like after my injury, I thought I was going to become a football coach. I never thought I would speak. I would have rather played soccer than speak. I was trying to get in the Special Olympics. They wouldn't let me in. I was trying to run track in the Special Olympics. I was like, nah, bro, you can't do it. I was pissed. And so I said, you know what, man, I'm gonna move back home. And I'll never forget, at the time, I was a graduate assistant. And I was making probably $250 a month. And I was on a copy machine on Lane Kiffin's staff. And I'm on a copy machine at 2 a.m. And my wife calls me, and my wife was in Atlanta teaching. You never know where life will lead you. You never know where opposition, adversity, or challenges will lead you. That's why it's important not to waste experiences. And my wife calls, and I pick up the phone, and my wife's voice is trembling. And says, hey, Ink, what you up to? I said, nothing, babe, I'm on a copy machine making copies. I said, you good? She's like, yeah, I'm good. She said, you okay? I said, yeah, I'm cool. And she blurts out of nowhere, she says, Ink, I'm pregnant. And it scared me so bad, I was like, how'd that happen? She was like, you know how it happened, right? I was like, I got you, but it just scared me. It caught me off guard. I didn't feel like I was ready, right? Somebody filmed, I know you done been in a position you feel like you was ready. I didn't feel like I was ready, right? She said, I need you to make a decision. She said, I need you to make a decision. And I knew exactly what she was saying. So the next morning I went into my coach's office. I said, hey, coach, man, my wife is pregnant. I said, my father wasn't there when I was born. This is important to me, man. I want to be there when my first child is born. He said, you should. He said, that's the right thing to do, man. You should go back to Atlanta. You should do that. I walk out of his office. I call the rec center in my neighborhood. There was different people working there at the time. I call, they pick up and say, hey, man, I'm Inky Johnson. I'm moving back to Atlanta. I would love to create leadership curriculums for the kids in my community. They said, oh, man, that's great, man. Send your resume over, man. Like, this is awesome. I send my resume, never hear anything back. When I move, I go to the rec center. I say, hey, man, I'm Inky Johnson. I sent my resume, never heard anything back. Not sure if you guys got it. It's like, oh, yeah, Inky, yeah, the guy, yeah, man, like, we forgot to tell you, you're overqualified. I was like, overqualified? This is a rec center. Bro, I got a couple of degrees. I'm overqualified. It was like, yeah, I won't know what to tell you. I was like, all right, cool. And I had to move in my wife's grandmother's home. One of the toughest moments of my life. Because if I could be transparent, I couldn't understand how God would take me from Kirkwood to the University of Tennessee to 8 games away from possibly becoming a first-round draft pick to bringing me right back to Kirkwood, 2 blocks away from where I grew up, in my wife's grandmother's home. We had our daughter, Jada, and I had a truck with over 300,000 miles on it, had a couple $100s to my name, and my daughter was sleeping in a wagon that somebody had bought her for a birthday, and we would put pillows in it. I couldn't understand it. I'm like, God, how can you take me to the top of the top to bring me right back where I came from with a couple $100s to my name? Like, what is this? And every single morning, me and my wife would get dressed, and she would go teach kids, and I would go out and I would look for a job. And at the time, the only thing I had going for me was I was finishing my book because I had a grandmother that was ill. And this was very important to me. I wanted to finish it before she transitioned. And every single morning we would get up and I would go look for a job, and it wouldn't turn out well. Now, I'll never forget, the burden had gotten to be a bit much, and I was in uncharted territory. I was in a place I had never been in before. And I'm usually a pretty positive, optimistic guy. I wasn't that guy at that point. I was questioning myself. I was questioning my skill set. I was questioning my gift. Now, I'll never forget, I had gotten back my first copy of my book. And me and my wife, we get up one morning like we usually do, and we went in the mirror and we're getting dressed, and my wife looks at me and she could see it. My wife been knowing me since 5th grade, 10 years old, man. And she said, Ink, are you okay? I said, yeah, I'm good. She said, you know it's okay if you're not okay. I said, yeah, I'm good, I'm all right. And really, I wasn't. And I went in and I sat on the edge of the bed, and she was like, you sure? I said, yeah, I'm cool, I'm good. She's like, all right, Ink, I'm about to go off, I'm about to teach these kids. And I said, babe, wait. I said, I got something I want to show you. And I grabbed my book. I went in, I met her in the hallway. I said, babe, you're not going to believe this. She's like, what you got, Ink? I said, I'm about to take the book to Chicago. I'm about to take it to Oprah. My wife said, Ink, you know Oprah? I was like, nope. She's like, you know somebody at Harpo Studios? I was like, nope. She said, you sure? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, go for it. That's why it's important to have you one, all right? A good woman to change your life. She said, go for it. I went out, I got in that truck, over 300,000 miles. I had a 2X suit. As you can see, I'm nowhere near a 2X. I had my couple $100s to my name. And I took off driving to Chicago. I get to Chattanooga. I called my buddy Jeff. Jeff was an attorney in Knoxville. Jeff picks up. I said, Jeff, you're not gonna believe it. Jeff said, what you got, Ink? I said, man, I'm headed to Chicago. I'm about to give Oprah the book. Jeff said, Ink, you know Oprah? I said, nope. He said, I know what this is. He said, Ink, man, one of the things I really admire about you, he said, you're an extremely ambitious person, man. He said, I love that about you. He said, but the chances of this happening are slim to none. He said, I want you to hang up the phone, call me when you get to Knoxville. I want you to make that trip, waste your time, waste your money, and your wife be mad at you. I get to Knoxville. I call him. He picks up. He said, you still going, aren't you? I said, absolutely. He said, stop by and pick me up, man. I'll make the ride with you. All right? Yeah. We get to Chicago that night. Jeff gets us a room. Next morning we get up. I go to the front desk. There was an elderly lady working at the front desk. Jeff was standing in the corner waiting to go work out. And he's looking at me. And he's like, this dude is really about to do this. And I was asking the elderly lady, I was like, hey, can you give me the best directions to Harpo Studios, please? And I could tell she felt bad for me. She was writing it down on a piece of paper, and she slid it to me. She said, good luck, baby. I said, thank you, I appreciate it. I grabbed it, I looked at Jeff. Jeff said, Ink, wait. He said, I'm gonna get us a taxi, man. I'm sure this won't be long. Right? He gets us a taxi, we pull up to Harpo. This is when her last shows were happening. There was people everywhere. We get out, Jeff says, Ink, I'm sure I'll be seeing you in a minute. I'm gonna go find me a cup of coffee. And so I start to circle the building. All right, there's people everywhere. And whenever a door would open up, I would just run up to the door and I would say, hey, I'm Inky Johnson. I drove up from Atlanta. I want to give Oprah my book. They would say, man, get out of here. We don't do that. I was like, man, I thought y'all give away cars and houses. I got a book. Like, what is this? And I'll never forget, I got so discouraged. All right, everybody made their way into the building. And I went and I sat down on the curb and I'm sitting there and a gentleman runs across the street and he looked to be a homeless guy, and he sits down beside me, and he says to me, man, how are you? I was like, brother, I've seen better days. I was like, how are you? He was like, I'm great. Irony of the situation. We sit there, we small talk. He gets up. He says, all right, man, have a good day. And he walks off. I remember sitting there, and I was like, man, my wife gonna chew me out. And I sit there a few minutes, and I look up, and I look down the sidewalk, and coming down the sidewalk was Oprah and her security guard. I get up, I fix my suit. I was like, surely her security is probably gonna move me out of the way, but I drove too far, man. I gotta take my shot. I gotta Steph Curry that joint. Gotta go long range with it, right? And so I start walking, and they keep walking. I keep walking. They keep walking. I keep walking, and she stops directly in front of me. I said, hey, I'm Inky Johnson. I drove up from Atlanta. I wanted to bring you my book. She was like, oh, that's nice of you. Thank you. She grabs it. She hands it to her security guard. She grabs my suit. She starts to shake my suit. She's like, it's a nice suit. I think she was trying to see if I had a gun or a knife or something in it, right? Shaking my suit, right? I was like, thank you. She said, all right, I got to get in and do my show. I said, would you mind if I take a picture with you? She's like, sure, let's do it. We take the picture. She's like, all right, have a good day. And she goes to walk off, and I go to walk off. Her security guard, as he was holding the door, he said, hey, little man, wait. He said, wait, man, I want to tell you something. And so I walked over to him. He said, I'm not saying anything is going to come of this. He said, I just want you to know that what just happened never happens. He said, usually she'll send me up and tell me, hey, clear him out, tell him to send it here, and she'll never get it. He said, I'm not saying you're gonna be on the book club. I'm not saying you're gonna be on the show. I'm not saying any of that. I just want you to know what just happened never happens. I said, thank you, man. I greatly appreciate it. I said, I greatly appreciate that. I went to walk off. I put the picture up on social media. I sent it out to family, to friends. everybody's response was, Ink, you gonna be on the show? You gonna be on the book club? I was like, I don't know, I don't care. They said, what you mean you don't know, you don't care? I said, that moment wasn't about that for me. They said, what was it about? I said, I needed to know that I was still being guided by a source and by a force that was a lot greater than me. Yeah. Because I was in uncharted territory and I had goals, dreams, and aspirations, and my goals, dreams, and aspirations weren't matching my environment. And it's a lot of people in this room, it's certain things that you want to do, right? And the belief doesn't match. The ideal situation, circumstance, the goal, or the dream. And so for me, I needed to do something so outlandish, so wild. I put my faith on trial. I put my belief on trial. And so I left Atlanta, Georgia, my wife's grandmother's home, and I said, you know what, man? I'm gonna take this book and I'm gonna take it to Oprah Winfrey. Because I felt as if my goals, my dreams, my aspirations, I felt as if I didn't have any connection. I felt as if it wasn't any Wi-Fi between me and the Creator. I was like, man, are you still walking with me? Do you still hear me? Like the kid that came from this environment and wanted to accomplish some amazing things. I got this injury. I got a paralyzed right arm and hand. I had goals, dreams, and aspirations. I've been redirected, and I found myself in my wife's grandmother's home, and my daughter sleeping in a wagon, and I'm driving this old beat-up truck like, God, do you still hear me? So I'm gonna leave Atlanta and go to Chicago just to see. And God delivered me front and center, and I put the book in her hand. And people always say to me, hey, Inky, did anything come of that Oprah accident? Did anything come of it, Ink? Book club, show, did anything come of it? I said, man, nothing came of it, but everything came of it. My belief was fortified. My faith was fortified. My mindset changed. Within 2 months of being back in Atlanta, I was able to purchase, me and my family, our first home from stepping into my calling and my purpose because of that situation. And so when things go your way or things don't go your way, I just want you to say one thing to yourself. Am I failing or is God prevailing? That's the only thing I want you to say. Am I failing or is God prevailing? Because in life, people don't burn out, people don't quit, and people don't shortchange because of what they do. In life, people burn out, people quit, and people shortchange because life makes them forget why they do it. That's my time. God bless you. It was an honor to serve you.
Ladies and gentlemen, get on your feet. Keep it going for Inky Johnson. Keep it going. Hey, Ink.
What's up?
Keep it going for him, everybody. Give it up. Give it up. Give it up.
Thank you. Say something special.
Yeah. So I'm gonna hand it over to Tyler here. But while we got Ink here, while we got Tyler, while we got you here, you mind if we bring a couple more special people on stage? Is it?
Sure.
Do you wanna
say
something first for us? Or?
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely. Please do.
I want you to look right here, ma'am.
Yes, sir.
Look at everyone here. I want you to raise your hand if you were just impacted by this story, these stories. Raise your hands. Okay, now keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. I want you to look around. Just look behind you, look around you. Okay, now I want you to think about something. You were impacted by his story because he made sure that he had a story that would be impactful. Every single one of you are pursuing your own stories. Every single one of you are pursuing impact. And the way to impact is to make sure that you have a story that is impactful. That happens by doing the same things that Inc. has done. So when you leave here and life punches you in the mouth, I just want you to remember this. And remember that this happens when you keep going. Y'all hear me? Yeah. Thank you, dude. Appreciate you. Hey, yeah. God.